Hello, and welcome to Global Data Themes Instant Insights. At Global Data, we define a theme as something that keeps a CEO awake at night, as businesses that invest in important themes will succeed, and those that don't will fail.
Hello, and welcome to Instant Insights. I'm George Trotter, and today I'll be talking with Martina and Amna, both analysts from Global Data Thematic Intelligence, about Gen Z. We will be discussing what Gen Z is, its current state, which trends it follows, and its impact on the TMT sector. The Thematic Intelligence team has recently co-authored the Gen Z in Tech, Media, and Telecom report. So, Marty, let's just start off with the basics. What is Gen Z?
So Gen Z is anyone born between 1997 and 2012, and its current distribution is fairly uneven all over the world, and it mimics in a way the spread of the current world's population. And Asia has the largest Gen Z population at 1.2 billion, followed by the Middle East and Africa with 470 million. But this is interesting because although Asia is the leading in terms of the amount of Gen Z, it's Middle East and Africa that have the highest share of Gen Z out of its total population, which is about 34%. And yeah, just to close the picture, Europe is at the lower end of the spectrum, with Gen Z only accounting for 17% of its population. And yeah, so George, we're talking about a young cohort, which is unevenly distributed all over the world, with very different experiences, habits, values, social behaviors, as we will see.
Gosh, 1997, that means I just about slip inside. But these generations or social generation groupings been around for decades. People are often talking about what baby boomers do differently to Gen X. So Amna, why is it important that we're going to be talking about Gen Z specifically now?
That's a great question, George. And firstly and simply, it's because Gen Z is coming of age now. Their sphere of influence is increasing by the day, and by 2025, they will make up over 27% of the global workforce. And perhaps even more important than them coming of age is that over the next 10 years, Gen Z is set to benefit from history's biggest ever wealth and power transfer, with up to 8.6 trillion in assets to be transferred to this younger generation. In this way, Gen Z is set to disrupt every industry, and that's what we cover in our latest report. And finally, at a more nuanced level, while Gen Z is not one homogenous group, they do have certain shared characteristics that they bring to the table. And compared to previous generations specifically, they'll have different ways of approaching things, work, social life, leisure. And at the same time, they face far worse economic prospects than their parents. So they will make a lot of noise as they come of age in this world and attempt to handle these cards that they've been dealt.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amna. So we've heard about the upcoming opportunities for Gen Z, but Marty, what are the key challenges for this emerging generation?
So I'd say that the Gen Z are facing many challenges, but one of the biggest one that comes to my mind are the workplace ones. I'm thinking about trends like the Great Resignation, the tongue ping, and the quiet quitting. All these are all movement when millions of people are starting to reevaluate the relationship with work, and they leave their jobs and they retire. And of course, the pandemic intensified this trend and affected people of all ages. But for Gen Z, one of the main motivation is that they didn't have sufficient work-life balance, or the environment they were in giving themselves the opportunity to express themselves and to be themselves. Similar movement, I'm not going deep to this, but are quiet quitting, or in China, the tongue ping, also known as lying flat movement. Another challenge is definitely the ESG, because Gen Z people think more about ethics and sustainability. And we see this in increasing popularity, for example, in second-hand fashion, or their choice of carbon neutral or cruelty-free products and services, or the involvement in climate protesting, just to give an example. But this trend sometimes crashes. An example is the popularity of Shein. So the Chinese fast fashion retailer that appeals heavily young people from US, Europe, for example. But these retailers breach almost every single aspect of ESG criteria. And an explanation could be that Gen Z want to be ESG conscious from one side, but their budget is not allowing this to them because it's restricted, because they face the cost of living crisis. And this is why sometimes we have this dichotomy. Another challenge I'm thinking about is the mental health, which is a huge theme, We are under uncertain geopolitical, economic situation, the climate crisis, the increase of cost of living, the recent pandemic with all these lockdowns. And that's natural that the level of stress and anxiety of everyone, but especially of the young cohort, increased a lot in the recent decade. And the attention towards mental health increased recently, but some way governments and nations are not keeping up with the demand. And so many Gen Zs have turned to opt for meditation, online groups of almost every kind of mental health disorder, or virtual counseling is quite popular. And since they are digital natives, Gen Z are more comfortable turning to technology for help rather than just go directly to public healthcare services, for example. So this is a way how technology can improve our mental health and provide support.
Yeah, on the topic of mental health, a topic that always gets brought up is Gen Z's use of social media. Amna, what are the latest trends in this space?
Yes, George, I think that's a really interesting point to bring up. We often hear it hand in hand, people talking about social media and the negative impacts it has on the mental health of the younger generation. And it's true that Gen Z has a large impact in this digital space. Gen Z both informs online trends and are greatly influenced by them. And while many generations we know use social media, for Gen Z, it's their native domain. They have grown up with the likes of Instagram and TikTok. And in using social media, Gen Z interacts with online influencers on the daily, and that's the trend I'd like to focus on. So with influencers, there comes influencer culture, and alongside that, the influencer advertising industry. It's currently enabling millions of people to earn six-figure salaries just from content creation. And so Gen Z plays a key part here. And the main trend surrounding the influencers and their interactions with Gen Z is the changes that have happened recently. Since 2020, influencer culture has entered a new stage of maturity. An entire generation of early influencers is retiring. Think about those YouTube creators you had in the 2010s. You won't see many of them featured online now. And social media platforms like YouTube have introduced creator training programs. They're trying to train the influencers of tomorrow. So it is now more of a viable job prospect as well. With the industry growing in maturity, the viewers have also changed. So people are really assessing these parasocial relationships they have with influencers. They're thinking more critically about it. One of the trends we see there is the growth of cancel culture. Canceling harmful creators is commonplace. And viewers now also demand new standards of disclosure and advertising. They want to know when they're being sold to. So what does that mean? It means influencers must work harder to prove their authenticity to their viewers. However, despite these drives for truth, new ways of submerging advertising are always arising in the space of content creation. And some of them are arising to specifically target Gen Zers. For example, the recent trend of de-influencing, it started off to appeal to Gen Z's ESG conscious spending. It was a response to overconsumption, trying to get people to spend less and be happy with what they have. But now it's morphed into another way to sell deep products to younger people, to sell them the same thing at a cheaper alternative cost. So like Marty said, the influencer space and the social media space is natural domain for Gen Zers, but also one that has its own issues.
But there are good things that come along with Gen Z operating in the digital space, aren't there, Marty?
Yeah, definitely they are. The gameplay experience, for example, is one of these. Gaming, esports, and the metaverse are at the heart of entertainment for Gen Z, but at the same time, these technologies offer them a sort of virtual escape from the real world. And this trend intensified during the pandemic. And we know that Gen Z have this appetite for immersive and community-led experiences. And many of them consider the digital world as a place, as I said, to escape their realities. And it's called escapist entertainment because they value this digital space because they are free to be themselves, to experiment with their identities, to meet new people, to create new relationships, and so on. And this virtual world can give them self-confidence, for example, or also it's a way to relieve the stress and anxiety we were talking about before, or maybe an opportunity to build a career in. So many opportunities. And yeah, just to wrap up, I'd say that the digital space can offer also this kind of opportunities to Gen Z that you do not necessarily think about, but the young cohort really needs.
Thank you both, Amna and Martina, for those instant insights. And thank you for listening. There'll be more insights on the Gen Z topic with a full webinar on the 30th of November. So tune in then. And from all of us in Thematic Intelligence, see you next time.